While South Africans are already tightening their belts, the latest interest rate hike is expected to hit consumers even harder. The Reserve Bank has just raised the repo rate by 50 basis points this week. eNCA reporter Nqobile Madlala went on a walkabout talking to various farmers and food producers in KwaZulu-Natal about this increase in the repo rate. She's joining us now from our studio in Durban. Good afternoon, Nqobile. Thanks for joining us this hour here on Today. Yeah, tough times. I think it sounds like an understatement now. And businesses, I mean, with this new interest rates hike, they're already under the whip with the power cuts and the cost of living crisis. What did you find out?
Well, but then, especially for consumers, it's going to be even harder. We spoke to the Pietermaritzburg Justice and Dignity Group and Economic Justice and Dignity Group, and they were telling us that it's very hard. They were talking about the fact that people need to start looking in buying food directly from farmers so that they try and cut out the middleman to try and get things at a lower cost, as well as looking into local farmers and seeing if they can get any food from that. But they're saying that the food basket has shrunk over time. They're saying the basics are very expensive for a lot of people. If you've got a house, if you've got a car, all of that is going up. They're saying that they're noting that a lot of people now are losing their houses, they're losing their homes. And at the same time, for those that are buying simple things like food, they're finding that people who can afford that, affordability is getting less and less. Everything is shrinking and it's becoming more difficult for everyone. Marvin was just saying that at this point, there are a lot of things that probably needs to be explored before pushing up the repo rates. But he's saying that it's very, very difficult for the consumer, and it's about to get worse because when the repo rate goes up, it also looks into the lending. So when you have a farmer, for example, that's getting money from the bank and is loaning from the bank, that means that loan goes up, and that means the output, of course, from them, from the farmer coming to you, is going higher, and this means that it will translate to your price tag when you go to the supermarkets. Let's listen in to Marvin.
We are expecting that things will get extremely tough for ordinary South Africans. Already we are seeing that a basket of 44 very basic foods have exceeded the 5,000 Rand level. And those are basic foods like rice and sunflower oil and eggs and spinach and onions. And we also know that the national minimum wage of about 4,000 Rand, which comes in, and money that is being prioritized by communities are firstly towards transport, secondary electricity.
Yeah, and that cost, consumers spend most of their money there, food and transport, and it's got so much expensive over the last year. In fact, Nqobile, food inflation is in the 14-year high at 14-point-something%. It's really tough out there, and this kind of interest rate hikes, they make things even more difficult. Households are suffering, but farmers as well are suffering.
Definitely, Bradan, farmers are suffering. In fact, we started by speaking to the farmer, but I want to just draw your attention to this. We were speaking to someone who's the middleman between the farmer and the retailers, Dukwa, and they were saying to us that they are noticing that consumers are now spending differently. There's a great focus on what to buy and what is more important. They were saying that even though they are in the middle where they take the food from the farmers and they sell it to the retailers, they're finding that the important stuff are now becoming the major things, the staples. They're finding that people are no longer buying in bulks. People are deciding that this is what's more important, so I will spend on that and I will cut back on others. And this, of course, translates to the fact that the farmers that have gone out to plant certain things, it means that if they overplanted, it comes back to the fact that their crop and so on means that they lose that food. That means that they're spending less. People spend less, meaning the buying power is less, meaning at the same time that for the farmer, they are now losing their crops. They're losing a lot, which shrinks basically their profits, and this becomes more difficult. But to exacerbate that issue, they go out to the bank to try and loan more money, obviously to spend on machinery and so on. And this becomes even more difficult because the interest rate has gone up, which means that it's becoming more expensive to make sure that they run the farm itself. And of course, that eventually comes back to the fact that when they are selling, they will then have to put a markup on what they are selling, and that's becoming even more difficult for a person who's at the end, who is the consumer. But of course, the farmers are finding it very difficult for themselves. Not only are they dealing with that and the shrinking profits, but they're also dealing with load shedding. We've heard from them talking about the irrigation system being a major issue because they have to basically work according to load shedding, which affects their planting season as well. And so it's very difficult for a lot of farmers. But what's even more difficult is that if you're coming into the industry, you're new, you're mostly reliant on loans, you're mostly reliant on building this business. It makes it even more difficult to build up. So our farmers have got really a lot of odds against them. Let's listen in.
We are also going to try and maximize on our output and our production in terms of wanting to reap rewards from profits. And because we're in a system, we obviously, for a business to sort of survive and to also potentially become successful, you need to leverage some kind of finance or some kind of borrowing to ensure that you're able to grow your business, which is then obviously where the problem starts, because once the cost of getting inputs and equipment and infrastructure becomes too expensive to be able to pay back loans that you may have, then obviously that's going to come from the production and the output, which will then make it difficult once again for people who are, I'd say, low income earners, who are going to find it difficult to be able to try and keep up with their basic needs from month to month.
Okay, one of the people who's dealing with the food chain there in KwaZulu-Natal, between the farmers and the retailers, expressing the views about how tight money has just become with this new interest rates hike. Ending that wrap by Nqobile Madlala.